Well, guys, I decided quite abruptly, impromptu, spontaneously, that's the word I'm looking for, to do a grind stream. What's a grind stream? It's where we hang out while I grind a bunch of knives. And hopefully, well, we'll see. We'll see. I'll be able to look up periodically at the phone and see your questions or comments. And I've got a mic inside of my helmet here. You can see that right here. See that? So you can hear me. It's probably, I hope it's not too much background noise at the same time. Let me know. If this doesn't work, then we can shut it down. But what I'm anticipating here is a very long marathon here of a stream, because this is what I need to grind. At least as many of these as possible, which I probably will not get them done tonight. But that's the plan. So how's the audio? I'm sure you can probably hear me. Is there too much background noise? I don't know. Actually, what I'm doing right here is just cleaning up something on a pattern here before I actually go to what I'm doing here. This is slightly off, so I'm just adjusting this pattern on this other knife. Alright, cool. Can you guys hear me okay? Alright, sweet. We have Jesus in the house. We've got some more people. I've got the camera, I've got the phone positioned vertically so I can see the comments better. Anyway, cool. So this is the Buckthorn Warncliffe right here, and I got 40 of these in this batch. First thing I got to do though is I got to grind off the decarb on each one of these. These are fully heat treated, and they are ready for an edge, or a bevel, I should say, then an edge, and then a handle, and so forth. So they are about a third of the way through the process here, and so yeah, I'm just grinding off the decarb. I need to move this over here a little bit, it looks like. Sorry about the shaky camera. This mount is wobbly. So anyway, yeah, each one of these, grinding off the decarb here. And what I need to do is I need to scribe my lines on these. Normally I'll do them in a batch and then I'll paint them at one time, but since we're doing it this way, I'm going to put some Decarb on each one as I clean off the decarb, and then we'll just let it dry. That way I'll have some ready to go by the time I finish doing the decarb removal. Decarb removal, of course, being the layer of steel that's exposed to atmosphere during high temperatures. During the heat treat process, you lose a your carbon out of the steel, out of the top layer. How much depends on a number of different factors, but you don't want that. It's not on these ones. It's not that much. You can see right here, and I'm trying to show you, but my phone is not actually where it needs to be. I used a file to get down to hard steel. On this one, you can see how minimal decarb really is. So we're going to take off a little more than that and make sure. But it's not too bad on the 52100. Some steels are a lot worse for decarb, and you have to be aware of that. Alright, so audio's good. Let me make sure we're seeing all the comments here, because YouTube always switches it to top messages, and then I don't always see all the messages or all the comments. So yeah, we'll just consider this. This is a very tiny grinding booth, and I really need to fix that. But that ain't gonna happen tonight. So yeah, this is the grind stream. This is where we grind knives. You know, the blacksmithing part, the bladesmithing part is cool. It's a lot of fun. The fact of the matter is, reality is, this is where the money's made, so to speak, figuratively or literally. Because even when you forge stuff, you end up at the grinder here to finish it or complete processes that can't be done with forging. So, as you can see, I'm being very careful to keep the steel from heating up at all. And this will be even more important when we start actually grinding the blade. So I will try to keep an eye on the comments and answer questions, talk about specific topics, etc. So feel free to join in. This is going to be more of a participatory stream, because I'm not going to necessarily sit here and talk the whole time. So y'all bring the conversation. if any of you are on Facebook and have not joined the group called Fire Creek Forge Tribe, then you should, obviously. That's where I'm going to be, or that's where I have been focusing my social media efforts primarily, and interacting with people, you know, trying to build a kind of a community there. And you know, it's cool because everybody else gets to participate and interact as well, and that's one thing I really like about it. I don't like to have to be the only person that's, you know, posting stuff or driving the conversation all the time, you know. I feel like other people have something to offer too, obviously. And so we've already got a pretty good group of people going on there. We're almost up to 250 members in the group, and once we get to 250 members, I'm going to do a giveaway to somebody in the group. Everybody in the group is automatically entered in the giveaway, and the only requirement is that you're in the group. That's it. And somebody is going to win a sweet little EDC knife, which I posted a video about on the group. So I'm using a used 40 grit ceramic belt to grind off the decarb here. It's not a brand new sharp belt or anything. Yeah, it's still got enough. It can still cut well enough that it's not creating a ton of friction. But if you do stuff like this on a brand new belt, you're actually knocking off a lot of abrasive, just because you got a 90-degree edge right up against it, and that just literally just knocks it off rather than allowing it to cut steel before it is removed. So a bunch of these, most of these actually are going to Ridge Runner Blades. Our good friend Jason over there, and we've got some pretty sweet handle material selection on this batch, so that'll be cool. And I did make enough to have a few left over, so I'm hoping to have a few on my website. But we'll see. Anyway, these guys went fast last time. What kind of respirator? I've got my Miller PAPR. I don't know if you can see, it's got the belt pack with the tube up to the helmet. And works pretty good. Got all these heat treated yesterday. Yeah, it's great for when you have a beard, and glasses too, for that matter. It's basically the same thing as that 3M version, but significantly more affordable, at least when I purchased it. This blade design is absolutely perfect for a hollow grind because it's just one straight grind across the blade, or down the blade. You're not trying to make a compound radius as the blade curves up, because obviously you can do that, but it's significantly more tedious. And so it's just a lot more fun to, if you're going to do a hollow grind, to do it on something like this where it's just straight and level. But the hollow grind is great on these. Yeah, I gotta come up with some kind of earbuds or something that actually function as earplugs as well, because I haven't found any earbuds that do that. And so you can put earbuds in, but it's super loud still with the machinery, so it's just too loud. And so I wear earplugs, and you know, you just sit here and at the grinder for hours, and that's fine and everything. get a little bit boring, so I had this idea tonight to be like, hey, let's do a grind stream. So here we are. So thanks for joining and being a part of it. Hoping to get some good discussion going and all that stuff. Yeah, if you're talking about the 3M, I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but yeah, they're pretty expensive. Make sure I still have, yeah, I got all messages. Yep, okay. I guarantee at some point the live chat feed is going to switch back to just top messages, because YouTube always does that for some reason. I don't know why. How's everybody's evening going? How's the week going? My week has been, last multiple weeks have been a wee bit wonky. My wife started a job, started a new job, and her schedule is currently in flux week to week. So I am working around that, which of course I can do. But that's why I'm working right now, because our schedule ended up being a later shift or whatever. This little gasket on the dike bottle will not stay up in the cap. Very annoying. And then once it's up there, it doesn't actually stay up there either. Get up there, stay there. See the pain. What's everybody having for dinner tonight? We opted for something easy and got a lasagna to pop in the oven. Some salad to go with that. And the kids wanted some salad. Okay, last one here. And we'll have the decarb cleaned off of all of them. Alright. Put some water on that. This is that means finished ground. There's some more of those over there. Cool, I'm gonna grab my edge scribe and we can start scribing lines. Okay. If I can find it. There we go. I really should get a... No, I actually have... Do I have another one? I can't remember. I should get more than one of these and set them for specific stock dimensions, you know? Because this is 1/8, but I think this is set up for 5/32. Maybe not. I think that'll work. Yeah. It's really mostly to get it started right, you know? But, there you go, you can see what we're doing there. Maybe. Maybe not. Two little lines. That'll give us lines to grind to. Alright, so now we can switch out the flat platen for the grinding wheel. We have 12-inch grinding wheel. I bought this just for these hollow grinds. It makes a good hollow grind. But I've actually not used it on this size of knife yet, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. I think it'll be great, actually. I'm gonna top off my cooling bucket here, so that I have less distance between the grinding wheel and getting it in the water. When you're grinding a bunch of knives and you're dipping it in the water like hundreds of times, that saves time over an extended period of grinding. I might have gotten it a little bit full. Whoops. At some point I'm going to grab my shop stool and probably sit down. Hey Big Unk, how's it going? Appreciate you coming by. We are grind streaming today. You know, if I was technological, I'd figure out how to put it up on the Facebook group at the same time, but I'm not that technological. See how much abrasive gets knocked off right at the beginning there, putting that 90-degree edge right up to the wheel. I guess it's not the end of the world. It's all kind of superficial stuff, I guess. So I gotta get a bevel established to where I can come back to that groove, basically. That's the most important thing when doing a hollow grind. If you don't come back to that same groove every time, you're just going to be putting divots basically all over your blade, and you're not going to have one clean grind on the knife. So basically what we're doing is we're putting a radius right here between the thickness behind the edge and some point wherever that radius ends up here. But it has to fit, has to be in the right spot on the behind the edge thickness. That's the most important part. And then wherever wherever it lands up here on the flat, that's where it lands, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, assuming your radius is paired appropriately with the size of the knife. Well, you can see why it's a handmade knife. This is I profiled these ones out by hand also, but you know, it doesn't actually become a knife until it's sharp, and it doesn't become sharp until there's a bevel. So in a way, I guess you could say this is functionally what makes it a handmade knife. I don't know, what do you think? What do y'all think? Big Unk just got home from work, I'm assuming. Obviously. Hopped on the stream for a bit. Appreciate it. I was explaining earlier how I'm currently at work. My schedule is different lately. So I'm looking at the bevel straight on, like you guys are right this second, looking to see if it's even side to side on the center line, and looking at the plunge line, make sure those are close. This is still a rough grind. We're not even done yet. But this is, you know, most of the grinding is done right now. As you can tell, that's whatever thickness that is. We still have to hit it with a 80 grit, 120 grit, and then a surface conditioning belt. But that's what I'm looking at. And then I'm also, of course, looking at the grind lines here, and the height of the grind. Those need to be very close. Again, there's still some adjustment because this is still rough ground. You know, there's still some grinding to do, some material to remove. So it doesn't have to be exactly perfect yet, but it needs to be really close, because you don't want to be trying to fix, you know, things that are way off on the next stage. So it needs to be really close, like this right here. That's going to be a little crisper. This is going to be less wobbly, you know, those kinds of things. And anyway, that's what we're doing. something to temporarily fix this dumb apron. I'm getting my pants are getting water on them. This apron is not doing the job. It is falling apart, man. Oh, maybe a zip tie. That might work. I don't know. Find anything just off of the cuff. No, that'd be too easy. Something just randomly available that would work. Don't know. I don't see anything. I need to take it into the sewing machine and, you know, mend it. But I don't want to do that right now. Like a staple or something. That'd be great. That'd be perfect. You know what else would work is a couple of brass rivets. Which I do not have handy. Of course. It's not the smaller size. Oh, for crying in the night. Let's throw some duct tape on it for now, I guess. Try to make that work. Okay, well, we have a total of one knife so far, or rough ground, I should say. Partially, but mostly. Yeah, I went with just a piece of duct tape. It's been what I've been using for way too long already, so why stop now? Oh, I need to put my scribe lines on this one. You know, it's possible to grind a knife without this, without these lines, of course, but it certainly helps, and it helps to get it done a little bit faster because you have you know, something to gauge it by instead of having to be quite so slow and careful. You know what you're grinding up to. Yeah, I was actually working on that, a couple of sand mine knives and that small batch of Damascus knives first half of the day, and got 2 handles put on the sand mine, and then I got the 4 Damascus knives heat treated. Well, holes drilled, they're already profiled. The holes drilled, rough ground, heat treated. Now they're in the temper. And then it was time to pull these out of the tempering kiln and get them ground. Take some of this fine German steel, put an edge on it. Yeah, this steel came from New Jersey Steel Baron, as does most of my steel these days. And as with their 80 CRV2, I believe, and the 125 CR1, this 52-100 also is made in Germany, as far as I know. Okay, not bad, not bad. Dry it off so it doesn't corrode. Don't want to leave water sitting on it, of course. Grab another one, grab the edge, scribe or whatever they call this, I don't even know. I don't know, but it's gives us some lines to grind to. Make one harder. Well, I was just talking about that earlier, about the earbuds. Earbuds will fit, but my problem is I have not found any truly noise-canceling earbuds that actually keep the noise under control, because it's still too loud with the machinery and the fan thing blowing in the PAPR. Mostly the grinder though, of course. And so you can listen to music that way, but I don't. But with the ones with the earbuds that I've had, you still have a large amount of noise getting through, and it's not very pleasant. So Oh yeah, using the scribe lines makes it easier. Yeah, it's definitely better overall, but especially, I'm gonna scratch that a little bit, especially when you're using full thickness stock, which on 1/8 of an inch is super reasonable. And then you have that flat, true sides to use to scribe those lines. I can't tell if I'm obscuring the camera when I get right up on this, but I was kind of subconsciously trying to stay back away from the grinding wheel a little bit for camera view, and it's kind of messing me up a little bit, so got to get right over the top of it here as I'm watching that apex. The apex of the wheel here, where it's contacting what's going to be the final thickness of the blade before sharpening, or as they say, behind the edge thickness. Which of course is going to be thinner than what we're doing on this operation. But I got to keep everything as true as possible. Okay. See, that's a little off, but being a little off and needing to remove some material is much better than being a little off because you went too far. That's pretty good. Pretty good for a rough grind, meaning we still have adequate material. Come in with the 80 grit and then the 120 grit and really zero that in. I think I'm gonna grab my shop stool here. Feeling a little tired. I want to see if I can stabilize. There's not much room in this setup in here. It's very cramped. But we'll try to make it work with this I was using the 10-inch wheel, which you can't see, but it's right there, to do with my hollow grinds for the longest of times. And it sits, you know, closer to the grinder, I guess you would say. So I've had to readjust how I set everything up, because once you sit here for hours or whatever and grind a bunch of knives, everything muscle memory is a certain way, but then when you change things just a couple inches, it's a whole new muscle memory set, right? So I'm still kind of adjusting to that. All right, cool. Yeah, I just have to find some. You just have to find some like ear protection type earbuds or something like that that actually you know, keep the noise out. Making sure it's not blocking too bad still. Still sitting too far to the left. Trying to lock in here so I don't have to actually move until I need to. Until I'm too sore or something, you know. Grinding both sides, you know, one side then the other side, instead of taking large quantities of material off of one side at a time. Simple reason for this. Just like any material, steel is under tension. I'll stretch that again, dang it. That'll buff out, so to speak, but try not to do that. Steel's under tension, so if you relieve a bunch of tension on one side, it's gonna bow. Same with most materials. Most materials that have any kind of strength property to them, you know, like the opposite of being mushy. So it's no big deal as long as you evenly remove tension. Caught that one a little bit. It almost went too far. I don't know. We'll see how much talking I can actually do and still concentrate without screwing up. Also, I'm still not quite set up how I want to be. Plus I turned up the RPM on the grinder. Alright. Sometimes I have to remember that I'm rough grinding. I'll go too far on the 40 grit belt. And that's not a good thing always. The finer grit, typically the finer grit you go, the easier it is to kind of dial it in. It's more fine-tuned, kind of, so to speak. How much pressure do you use during this part of the grinding process? I don't know. It depends. I don't know, probably 10 to 20 pounds of pressure. I have no idea, really. Maybe more, but so my belt's starting to get dull. That's 4 knives of this size, and I'm about to change the belts out. Speaking of pressure, the more dull your belt gets, the more pressure you have to apply, and the more friction is created, and the more risk you run of overheating a blade and ruining it. So four knives is that's pretty acceptable for what I normally get. And then this belt, obviously I can still get quite a bit of use out of, like profiling. I'll use it for profiling, you know, cleaning up Damascus, billet, all kinds of stuff. So it's still got more use in it, but when it comes to grinding the bevels, that is the most touchy part of the process, most crucial. And so once that belt stops cutting well, I just switch it out. Because it just doesn't make sense to ruin a $2, $3, $4, whatever $100 knife Trying to get a little more use out of a $9 belt. So part of the difficulty, I guess, is that you can't just like get set and just grind. As you can see, if this was like a water-cooled system or something, then yeah, but it's not, and so I have to make sure that blade, that steel, does not overheat. And so I'm not even, half the time I'm not even doing a full grind on the blade, like, or a full pass, you know, as you can see. Because if you get the steel overheated, you ruin it. That's not good. Waste a whole knife that you've already put money and time into. And the other thing you'll notice is that once your belt starts getting dull, your grind lines start to suffer. It's because you're having to apply more pressure than normal, and instead of taking steel off, you're pushing stuff around. You know, this material is going to flex, it's going to give a little bit, and you're pushing it past its present capacity to be removed, and it's anyway, it's just a good recipe for messing up grind lines and doing subpar work without, you know, without realizing what's going on necessarily. Well, we have 5 down, only 35 to go on this rough grind. Obviously the finished grinding steps will go faster because we're not removing anything close to the same amount of material. and we're not having to establish geometry. That's always, you know, that takes more time because you really got to be careful putting that radius in here. So this is definitely the most labor intensive What belts do I recommend? Good question. The belts I use and I've been using for quite a while, I purchase from Benchmark Abrasives. I should say the ceramic belts I use, I buy some other soft belts and stuff from like True Grit. But after using quite a few different ones like the Blaze, Combat Abrasives, Empire Abrasives, I can't remember if I've ever used Red Label or not, but anyway, for the grade of ceramic belt that they are, which is as good or better than all of the ones I mentioned, that was the best price for that level of belts, that grade, quality, whatever, that I found. And they're probably all pretty much the same. I know, somebody's gonna say they're not. That's fine, I don't care. These work great for me, and they're best that I've found, so performance with the cost consideration. I think there's some ceramic belts out there that you can spend about $20 a piece on almost, and maybe I'd have to try it again, but I'm not aware of any performance metric that's that much better, twice as good as like these belts for almost twice the price kind of a thing. So that's why I use these. I kind of got that one kind of washed out there a tad. That's not what I wanted to do. Dang it. I think I can get it out, yeah. See, the nice thing about this is the final radius on these or I should say the final height of the grind on this is going to be taller than the previous ones, which gives even more cutting clearance. So I think that'll be great. But again, I don't want to do a finish grind with the 40 grit, and I always tend that direction. Like, okay, stop grinding, put it down. That's thin enough for 40 grit. You kind of get like obsessed with following the grind lines or the blade geometry, and getting closer and closer and closer to the finished blade geometry. And then you realize that you're still using a 40 grit belt and you shouldn't be that close to the final geometry yet. Like I said, partly because these heavy grit belts, they're actually they're a little bit squishy, so to speak. Whereas the finer grit belts, you get down there, they're a little more, there's less give in them, and it's easier to really get more crisp grind lines. So you don't want to try to get right up to the edge, right up to the end with a belt that kind of moves on you a little bit. Yeah, how high I take the bevels is, so this is a 12-inch wheel, so I want that radius, if I was to, well, if you're holding it like this, where that radius runs on the bevel, it's where it contacts at the thickness behind the edge. Wherever that radius naturally sits is where it's going to fall here. And there's a little bit of room, you can kind of, play with that a little bit and dial it in. That's essentially that's what I'm doing. So if I had like a 14-inch contact wheel, then same contact on the thickness behind the edge, but the grind would go up higher because it's a bigger radius. That's what I'm doing. Now you can do hollow grinds differently, like you have a hollow grind where it's basically the same thickness all the way up to where the hollow grind starts, and some guys will use, for example, like a 4-inch wheel, and you'll have a much tighter radius however high up you want. The thing I don't like about that for knives like this particularly is you have to deal with, you have a radius, but then you just kind of have a flat, consistent thickness for a distance, and you have to deal with that. And so the hollow grind part of it is only once the radius starts, right? And you can technically start the radius wherever you want, but in this case, in most cases, like your buck knife, for example, the radius is the entire grind, as opposed to a smaller radius starting up higher on the blade. So I'm liking this 12-inch contact wheel for those reasons. It still gives you plenty of Well, it gives you better cutting clearance than like a 10-inch radius wheel, 10-inch wheel. Which is why I got it. Or I should say it gives you a higher grind. That's really, I guess it's kind of both of those things. Because the cutting clearance on with the 10-inch wheels is just fine as well. This is going to give more of a I guess this will give a longer distance of thinness. Very technical stuff, very technical terms there. Seven. All right, well, I should get 2 more knives out of this belt. Should be basically an identical amount of steel being removed each time. And it also depends on the type of steel you're grinding too. If this was like 1080 or even like 80 CRV2, I would get more out of the belt. But abrasion resistance is abrasion resistance. Gary, how's it going? Certain type of knife. Yeah, just a simple, like, outdoors or everyday carry knife, something like that. Honestly, I wouldn't try to make a super small knife either. It's actually a little more difficult to hang on to when you're working with it. Like grinding the blade and stuff. So just a nice, like a, 3-4 inch blade, regular sized handle, about, 4.5 inches long. Then as far as the grind, probably something like a flat grind or convex bevel. Convex bevel would probably be the easiest overall. And then of course, as far as steel, I always recommend something like 1080, 1084, 1075, any one of those. And that's just, ease of heat treat, the cost on it on those steels is pretty reasonable. It's easy to work with all the way around. Make a decent knife if done properly. Larry, I'm using a 40 grit ceramic belt for the rough grind on these knives, well, on every knife I make, basically. And then I'll go to a 80 grit, and then a 120 grit. And you can either go up from there or do a surface conditioning belt or something, depending on what your final finish is going to be like. Alright, we're about there on this one, and I can really feel that belt pushing back. It's not really taking steel off much anymore. And yep, that is 4 knives out of that belt. So yeah, obviously that's going to be 10 belts for this batch. So about $100 in belts, give or take. Maybe, I can't remember what these ones are exactly. Maybe 900, maybe 10. I don't know. Hey, Smith, how's it going? So big on the main reason I would caution anybody against a particular steel is if they don't yet have the experience and or equipment to get the best out of that steel, and therefore kind of negate the whole purpose of maybe using that steel anyway in the first place. So the 1080, 1075, 1080, 1084, those can all be properly heat treated with very simple equipment, whereas the 52100, for example, that I'm using here, that you really need a kiln to heat treat that, because it has to be held at a temperature for a length of time throughout multiple parts of the process, and that can be very difficult or impossible without some kind of temperature controlled kiln or something like that. And so if you just use 5200, for example, without the understanding and or ability to heat treat it like it needs, you might still get a knife that works okay, but it's not going to, and you may not, but let's say you did, it's still not going to perform up to what it should. And so it would make more sense to get a less expensive steel that is going to get properly heat treated and will give a good performance for what it's capable of. Thanks, Big Unk. Catch you later. Oak, I am working on a batch of 40 Buckthorn Wharncliffe knives. It's a model that I make, and I'm doing the rough grind on them right now. So We're doing a grind stream. It's exactly what it sounds like. Conversation driven by you all, and grinding done by me. I'll participate in the conversation as well, but I'm gonna kind of focus on this, you know, as much as necessary, since sometimes it's hard to walk and chew gum at the same time. There was some talk about reshoring manufacturing around, you know, in America and all that good stuff, and I don't really know where that's all at right now, because that doesn't seem to be what is being talked about. But we've been making knives by hand in America since the beginning, so you know, you don't have to reshore anything. And this is it right here. Handmade knives. Yeah, I'm finding that I can't really talk and concentrate on the grinding at the same exact moment. I didn't know that, but apparently that's the case. I find that once I start talking, my ability to really maintain that grind starts to slip a little bit. Interesting. Fine motor skills, I guess. Maybe if I had more practice, but I'm a little tired and I'm really trying not to screw any of these up. So really kind of try to zero in, you know. So I'm applying pressure into the wheel, but I'm also applying pressure up, but not too much, and applying pressure correctly this direction. So kind of applying pressure on, well, then I'm moving it, so yeah, 3 axes, I don't know, axes. It's a 3-axis operation here. See, I failed to maintain pressure on the Is that the y-axis? No, the z-axis. Up and down, right? Held the bait train pressure on the z-axis and it succumbed to the rotational force of the grinding wheel. Really got to be careful about that because you're going to round this off real bad and wash out your final thickness behind the edge. I got to make sure I don't smell something burning. Nope. I guess I don't. This dumb apron is... I need to get a new apron. In many ways, standing up while grinding is easier. But it's also kind of harder on your back too over a long period of time. right, we are 10 knives in. 10 out of 40. How long are we going to do this stream? I don't know. Probably until my audio transmitter dies. I think I'm going to run in and see if there's any dinner real fast. But I'm not going to end the stream. I'm gonna skip out for a minute. Put the microphone right here. And I'll be back in a few moments. Okay, I'm back. All right, so keep grinding away. We're just gonna see how many of these I can get ground tonight. It'd be great if I could get all 40 of them done, but we'll see. And if I don't, then I don't, but we shall see. Wolf Party. Haven't seen you in a couple minutes. How are you doing? Now we can finally get the party started. Okay. Okay, see, I screwed up there. I got a radius going here, and then I just walked it up here on accident, so I got another radius. Not good. Fortunately, we're still far enough out that I can clean that up and make one clean radius out of that. But that's the thing that's easy to do and mess up a hollow grind. Alright, here's a subject for you. How many people on here, how many of you guys, whoever, grew up reading Louis L'Amour? Guess nobody. I guess nobody grew up, or maybe didn't grow up, but just read Lewis L'Amour, the westerns, you know? Anybody? Or was it just me? You guys still hear me okay? Somebody let me know if the audio is still working. Stuff that one up again. That one up too. Not happy about that. Guys, give me an audio check. Audio? I don't know if you guys can hear me. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I might lose reception, cell reception, or phone reception if I do that. So. Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. I'm not sure if my... Not sure if my audio is still working or not. I don't know. The audio wasn't working. I did not know that. That's terrible. I was trying to get somebody to let me know if the audio was still working, but it didn't work. Yeah, I said hi to Wolf Party. Haven't seen you in a couple minutes. And how you doing? Yeah, I figured something wasn't happening properly with the audio. It's always lousy when that happens. Well, we're 12 knives in, 12 out of 40. And yeah, I thought nobody wanted to anymore because I wasn't getting any response, but just the audio, I guess. Or it could be both. It's working. Yeah, it's working now. I don't think it was working a minute ago, but yeah. Well, I had the kooky idea of like running the grind stream here as long as possible, not for any real legitimate reason, just because. And I don't know if that's something anybody wants to do or not. A few different people coming in and out. Well, I think I'm going to shut it down here. I've got these ground so far, rough ground. We did these on the stream. 12 knives so far. Pretty decent start, I should say. And this is what we have left. So about 2/3, no. Yeah, about 2/3. All right, well, I'm gonna shut it down here and go grab some, I'm gonna grab some dinner. And then get back out here and get as many of these ground tonight as I can. So, appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.